Let's start again at the morning of the 7th, and we'll go through the squadron's activities for the day, and then have a quick look at the beginnings of Operation Charnwood at the end. 441 Squadron has no entry, as they did not take part in any of the flying, whether that was due to maintenance or due to pilot availability, or they were just given a day off, which all these guys need at this point. I have no idea, but no flying for this squadron on the day. 442 describes it as light rain early. Squadron wakened before 0500 hours and were airborne by 0825 for an hour patrol, which was uneventful. Armed recce at 1140 hours for 11 pilots. Shot at some MET. Flight Lieutenant Dowding hit by flak in both wings. Starboard beyond repair, but he was uninjured. Sun showers in the afternoon. Flight Lieutenant Trott completed an operational tour today and was receiving lots of unsolicited advice for his future. The OC, Squadron Leader Russell, receiving congratulations on his reappointment to Wing Commander and regrets that he will be leaving us for 126 Wing. Flight Lieutenant Dowding to take the squadron with his flight commanded by Flight Lieutenant Roseland. From a few minutes before 2200 hours till after 2230, there was a tremendous show as hundreds of four-engine bombers streamed past and were seen to drop incendiaries, flak bursting all around, then circled and headed back to England. Several parachutes seen drifting out to sea, an impressive half hour. Now, it mentioned right there Squadron Leader Russell's reappointment to the rank of Wing Commander, and he had actually commanded 126 Wing in 1943, and then spent several months at Headquarters 83 Group, and then when the invasion came along, he requested and received appointment as 442 Squadron Commander, even though that did mean a reduction in rank back to Squadron Leader. And we also see the beginnings of a big reorganization of all these bases and all these wings within the RCAF, and I believe in the RAF in general. But we're going to see more on that, I believe 14th or 15th, sometime in the middle of this month, more to the story. But I'll continue on with 443. Weather warm with scattered rain, 3/10 cloud. Flying Officer Pitch returned to the airfield this afternoon from England, whence he had flown in the Oster 5 on July 5th. 3 armorers reported to the squadron today on posting from England. They are filling newly established positions on the squadron for armorers. Continuing cases of sickness arising among the pilots due to stomach trouble. A large bombing mission was carried out by 4-engine RAF and RCAF bombers on Caen. The incoming and outgoing progression was very impressive and was very plain to all on the ground here, being carried out at from 3,000 to 8,000 feet. Squadron took part in 2 armed recces during the day without incident, for a total of about 32.5 flying hours. So we'll have a quick look at the missions. It was a very, very standard day. 0630 to 0705, 12 aircraft dispatched on armed recce. 10/10 cloud, low ceiling, and scattered rain made it impossible to carry out the mission, and aircraft returned to base. So it clears up later on, but it's a resurgence of the bad weather that has really shaped the operations all the way through this point. 442 is up next with a full squadron-sized armed recce, uneventful, cloud 5/10 broken in layers, and that was 825 to 0925. And then as they're landing, 443 is up again, 0935 to 1055. 12 aircraft dispatched on armed recce out to the eastern area and returned to base. No transport on roads, 3 goods wagons in Bernay marshalling yards, 4/10 cloud at 3,000 feet with another layer at 8,000, flight carried out between the layers, and no activity to report. And it reported the goods wagons in the marshalling yard up here at Bernay. And this is one of those weird little places where, for some reason, there's just no photographic coverage from the time. We have the rail actually running through the town of Bernay, and I thought this was kind of interesting, this tunnel that it goes through right here, and looking at this map from above like this, find myself forgetting just how hilly this terrain is once you get a little ways from the coast. And there we can see one of those tunnels right there, and I zoom in here because there are many examples, at least in the Typhoon and the Mustang units, of bombing tunnels like this. This would be a perfect spot to keep important items under cover, and we see a lot of examples of these being bombed, trying to run in at low level and get a bomb in there to take out whatever it is. Okay, so then up we have 1145 to 1245, an armed recce by 442 again. This is 1 flamer destroyed south of Beni Bocage, 1 smoker destroyed and 1 damaged north of Falaise. Flak, accurate, intense, and heavy from east of Treran. Nil enemy aircraft opposition, clouds 5/10 with a base of 12,000, and then the last mission for the day is 1820 to 1940, 443, another armed reconnaissance. and 12 aircraft dispatched on armed recce to Argenton, Domfront, Flare, 3 Harcourt, 5 MET damaged, very little activity on the roads, no enemy air activity, 2 aircraft returned early. Flight Lieutenant Prest found his radio unserviceable and came back with his number 2 man. Visibility good. Scattered wispy cloud at 3,000 feet. Reported inaccurate moderate light flak east of Caen and southeast of Argenton. Enemy aircraft burning on the ground north of Gase. And that is the last mission that the records record, at any rate. I do have an account from Johnny Johnson concerning this bomber raid up here on Caen, and we're going to get into the ground battle tomorrow and the next day and the fall of Caen, but we see this box outlined right here, and this is the target for this bombardment described by the squadrons, and I'll go to the larger view. And this is going to be one of many examples of using bombers to attempt to soften up the enemy lines for a ground advance. We saw examples of that in this campaign with the first day of D-Day trying to soften up the areas just behind the beaches. We just saw another example at Cherbourg with an operation similar to this being carried out as the Americans advanced on the city. And then coming up in the middle of the month, we have what is usually cited as the example of how this type of operation can backfire on you due to things that are just outside of the bomber's control, wind, weather, and just the inaccurate nature of a strategic bomber at the time in general. Now we can see on the map here that the target box was actually on the outskirts of Caen as it stood at the time, and not within Caen itself, but what happened here was that the Pathfinder bombers, dropping those smoke markers like we saw a couple of days ago, were actually too conservative, fearing dropping short onto the wrong troops, and ended up dropping long into the north part of Caen itself, and follow-up bombers bombed on those markers and ended up, instead of hitting the positions as planned, more or less reducing the northern half of Caen to rubble. One of many, many reasons that this type of attack on this scale didn't survive World War II as a viable thing to do. And Johnson, in his book, doesn't hold back when expressing his distaste for this type of attack. And his description of the attack itself matches what we've already seen, but at the very end he does describe 2 Lancasters breaking off from the formation, and instead of going north to England, breaking off and diving to the south, and he describes it as, "I soon discovered the object of this low-level flight. This road, which is one of the enemy's main supply routes, is packed here and there with stationary tanks, armored cars, and vehicles. As the bomber sweeps down the road, both the front and rear turrets are in action, and the gunners are firing long bursts into the enemy vehicles. Enemy drivers and crews abandon their vehicles as the Lancasters pound along and dive for the shelter of the hedgerows. Another Lancaster has appeared on the scene and is carrying out similar tactics. Speechless, I watch the role of fighter bomber being carried out, and most effectively by the 4-engine heavies. But now it's all over. I fly alongside the Lancaster as it settles down for the flight back to Lincolnshire and wave to the adventurers inside. We have seen 2 bomber missions this evening, which will never be recorded in any official log." But in either case, yeah, I thought that last part was interesting. And we're going to move on to the morning of the 8th. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.